I don't know how many listeners play MLB The Show. I'm definitely one of those guys, as I've mentioned previously. In the game, there's a game mode called Road to the Show. I think there's, March to October. We're on our own road here. We're on the road to spring training. That's the road that we're on. In one of my baseball group chats, we started talking about Aaron Boone's job security, what the Yankees might do this offseason, really just dissecting their lineup. When everyone in that group, I believe it's 10 of us, none of us are Yankees fans, nor do we give a shit about the Yankees. We don't care. We're just talking baseball. One guy chimes in. He's like, guys, baseball season is over. Like, clearly, he probably wants a break. I suggest he mutes the chat like a normal person. I mute a lot of my group chats, probably all of them, if I'm being honest. You invite me to a group chat, no matter the importance, you're probably sending an invitation to kindly get muted. Just too many notifications. So, if he doesn't want to hear us talking about baseball all year long, mute the chat. The Mariners open this offseason plus 2,500 in Vegas to win the World Series. Get your bets in now, people. Welcome to Keep It Electric with Tremayne Person. This is episode 61. The Los Angeles Dodgers are officially your 2024 World Series champions. Honestly, I think we all knew this was coming. Anyone outside of New York probably had this on their bingo card. The Dodgers went out, dropped $1 billion this offseason, and brought home the title. And look, I'm not taking anything away from them. They definitely earned it. They had their share of adversity, especially with all the injuries and their pitching staff. And then there's the incredible Freddie Freeman storyline. That's only added to the legacy of the team. But let's be real. They spent big and they got exactly what they paid for. This is a prime example of what Mariners fans have been clamoring for season after season. The Dodgers, much like the Yankees, made huge moves to bolster their lineup with high-powered offensive stars. They invested in power, they invested in production, and they invested in players who can make a difference in clutch moments, and it worked for the Dodgers, not for the Yankees. I guess fielding wasn't really part of the things that they were looking for in New York, but I'm not saying that the Mariners need to throw $1 billion around. But if we're serious about competing for a World Series, it's time to look in the mirror and get real about upgrading the lineup. This is the team that's come so far, but we're still missing that punch that gets us to October and keep us there. So now we've got Juan Soto, the biggest name in free agency this offseason. He's out there. He's available to all 30 teams. Not really. He's just wait. I mean, maybe he is. But he's just waiting for the highest bidder, and you know, he he says he's available to all 30 teams, but that's come on. The rumors are saying that the Mariners are out of the race. Our offer won't touch the ones that will be lined up by the Mets, Yankees, maybe the Phillies, and the Dodgers, and that is probably true. The Mariners will probably get outbid. Um, but there's something to be said that if the Mariners actually try, and I think it would be crazy for them to not try. So Juan Soto's value at the plate is undeniable, and he's going to play this free agency smart. He's going to position himself to become the highest paid player in baseball, and I think that's only going to come from a big market club. Now I'll be here to break down the rumors, the bids, the moves, not just Juan Soto's moves, but moves across the league, especially the ones that will impact the Mariners. And as for today's episode, we're going to get back to Trey's grades. We're going to dive deep into another key possession for the Mariners. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let's talk about third base. Last season, Josh Rojas took on the hot corner. 131 games started there. Dylan Moore started 45. Luis Urias, 38. Leo Rivas played a couple, and we even had like a blast from the past, a cameo by Justin Turner, who returned to the hot corner for a game. Rojas proved to be serviceable, 2.1 wins above replacement, solid fielding, had a decent impact. He did commit the most errors of anyone on the team. He does get moved around a lot, so I think Josh Rojas is someone who is, to me, a natural second baseman. I think I've said that before, and I really feel like all of 2024 was him just filling in a role that he's not exactly built for. So again, Rojas is a better fit for second base. His defensive skills are better there. His contacts hitting, like, I just think he's more suited as a second baseman. And when you look at the third base profile for most teams, it's a bit more pop. Rojas finished the season with 8 home runs and 31 ribbies in over 130 games. It's solid, but it's not quite the offensive punch you'd expect from a traditional third baseman. Now, I think going into the season, the Mariners were hoping that Jorge Polanco would add that spark and probably make up for the pop that they weren't getting at third base, especially with his past numbers, but that just didn't materialize. So where do we go from here? It seems pretty clear to me that the Mariners need to rethink their approach at third base. If they want a real impact in the lineup, they're going to have to. If you move Rojas to second base, as I expect they probably will, that leaves a big question mark on who fills his shoes at third. Urias isn't going to do it, and Dylan Moore is a utility guy. We'll probably see him at third a couple times, but that's just not where he's supposed to be. He did showcase more pop, though. Either way, the power was not consistent out of that position, and I don't think the Mariners can afford another year with that kind of production. So let's turn to the free agent market. Now, it's not about spending $1 billion like the Dodgers, but we do need to get strategic and find a player who can bring the offensive upgrade to our lineup. Third base is important. We've seen how elite players can turn a lineup around, especially when they're placed at the hot corner. There's a few options who could provide some serious value to the Seattle Mariners lineup, and that just depends on how front office wants to play it. So let's dive into who's available here. The free agent class for third baseman, it's not exactly deep. It's a lot of 30-something utility players, familiar faces who may fill in, no names different from what I've already mentioned in the past few episodes since we've been focused on the infield. I don't see any necessarily, any game changers outside of one name. There's one name that stands out above all of the rest, and that is Alex Bregman. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think we'll see Bregman in a Mariners uniform, but I'd be lying if I said that I wouldn't be thrilled to see him in a Mariners uniform. I also think it would be extremely fascinating to have Alex Bregman put on a Mariners uniform after having 5 or 6 or 7 years of just boo birds. Now, Bregman is a powerhouse. He's got a really strong glove. He's good at contact hitting. He's got some power. He's got a ton of plate discipline, and he's a veteran. He rarely strikes out. He's kind of exactly the player the Mariners would need to elevate third base. He would bring third base to a new level and bring some production that we haven't seen since Geno. So, Bregman's agent is Scott Boras. So, he's going to make sure that his players get paid. Early projections are placing Bregman's price tag to be around 7 years and $200 million, over $200 million. Bregman's 31. His age and price are two things the Mariners are probably going to shy away from. The Mariners have a habit to look for value rather than spending big on a star who's heading into the later part of their career, and that's definitely some merit to that approach. Like, hypothetically, if the Mariners did pull the trigger, I genuinely think Bregman's bat and defensive consistency would make a massive impact, but as Dipoto would say, they would be mortgaging their future, which is something they don't want to do. However, if signing Bregman's going to bring an AL West title to Seattle, it might be worth it. So if Bregman doesn't happen, we'll still need to address third base. Right now, our main in-house option is probably Ben Williamson. And Ben Williamson is a promising talent in the farm system. He has a ton of potential. He's been great so far in the farm, and I think that could translate well at the major league level, but Ben Williamson is not ready. I think he's on track to be ready by 2026. So adding someone like Bregman would probably actually block Williamson's progress. If you sign Bregman to 7 years, that would turn Ben Williamson into a trade chip, and I don't think the Mariners have made that decision about him just yet. So that brings us to my prediction, what I think is actually the most likely scenario for 2025, and I think this might surprise some people. I think the most likely scenario for the Mariners would be to have a reunion with a Eugenio Suarez. Yes, the same Gino who held down third base for us in 2022 and 2023. So Suarez has a $15 million option for next season with the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks have a $2 million buyout, which I think most people thought that they were going to use until Suarez finished the season super hot last year. So he had a rough start. He finished strong. And that puts Arizona in an interesting spot because they have Blaze Anderson, their rookie third baseman, who actually ended up splitting some time with Gino a little bit last year when Gino was struggling. I think the Diamondbacks want Blaze Anderson to take up more time at third base, which makes Gino a trade chip. So if the Diamondbacks want to dump Gino's salary, I think the Mariners could very well be in a position to benefit from that. So imagine the Mariners calling up the Diamondbacks and just saying, "Hey, trade these backsies." You know, obviously they won't pull the exact same deal. But the Mariners and the Diamondbacks have done plenty of business. They've made plenty of deals between the both of them before. So it's not, I don't think it's too crazy to have the Mariners call the Diamondbacks back for Gino. It would be a 1-year reunion with Suarez. That would be far more manageable than a 7-year commitment to Bregman. Plus, $15 million is not an outrageous sum of money for an upgrade for 1 year at third base. And it gives us another year to get Williamson ready for the big leagues. So I kind of like that. Now, if this reunion happens, we'd also get good vibes back in the locker room. We get good vibes, good energy back, a solid glove, and the power that we were missing all last year. I mean, if you look at the power, Gino left a hole in the lineup, and we didn't fill it. So because the Diamondbacks would be looking to cut payroll, we might not have to give up any top-tier prospects to make this happen. To me, the scenario just makes sense for a team that's done some big financial decisions, or they have some big financial decisions coming up with their with some of their prospects entering arbitration. We can have an upgrade at third, bolster the lineup, and avoid a long-term commitment that could mess with our plans to develop homegrown talent. So will it happen? I'm not sure. We'll see. But either way, I'll be here breaking down whatever moves that the Mariners make. If Suarez returns, I think we could be looking at a reinvigorated infield and maybe just some good vibes back in the clubhouse. So it's time for the final grade at third base this past season. Once again, we've been discussing infield. I'm giving this another solid C, which really shouldn't be surprising. The infield was easily our weakest spot overall this season. Third base reflected that with, flashes of good, but really just so much room to improve. Next week, things will be taking a different turn because we're going to dive into the catcher position. And this might sound like it could be a really quick chat, but if I'm going to be fair, there's no way I'm going to shortchange Cal Raleigh. Next episode is something I'm really excited for. I'm excited to give him the spotlight, give him the flowers, and it's my opportunity to give Cal Raleigh the recognition he deserves for being the rock behind the plate. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Keep It Electric. Join me next time as we give Cal his flowers, talk about what offseason moves we might see, and keep our eyes locked on the road to spring training. Until then, keep it electric. Go Mariners!